creating a void, would rather you stay there and just plateau. I mean, they didn't say plateau, but they just said, we also couldn't find anybody who could do that job, so you might as well stay there. But I had interviewed everybody that mattered in the music industry, in the arts industry, and I was tired. Because a month later, the same person will come and I have to now think of what other question to ask. Because I was recycling them over and over. So I told myself I was done with this and I needed a show that would challenge me. And I was done talking about music only and what are you doing, what's your album about. I just wanted something a bit more challenging. My bosses said no. I had to fight. I had to cry. There were guests who would walk into the building and they'll find me crying. And they're thinking, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, my bosses don't want me to start my new show. And it was all very upset because they just didn't understand the backstory of it. Now, eventually, I had people who helped me and I started that show. A year into that show, I'm told, it's time to move again. And I'm telling God, but you just gave me this idea. So why do I have to move? And he says, well, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to move. Because I made you start this show for a reason. And that was supposed to prepare you for the next journey. I still didn't understand. So TV3 gets in touch with me. The first time, I want to move. I tell them, okay, I'll come. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, you people, you're jokers. I'm not moving. So I accept, I sign a contract and everything. It's time for me to move. And then I have to tell them the bitter truth. I'm sorry, but I cannot make it. And it pissed everybody off, I'm sure, at TV3. They were very disappointed because they were just about ready to, put out the PR and say, so Berla is joining us. And this is me being so afraid to move. And so I got stuck in that space. For another 6 months, I was there. Now, this move came in March. So if my calculation is right, the final move I made was in September. So maybe about 5-6 months. Now, while I was there, things took a turn because I was disobedient. I knew I had to go, but I wasn't going. So God said, if that's the case, thank you. If that's the case, then I'm going to make it even more difficult for you. So now all the negative things that had to happen would happen. The backbiting started. There were a lot of accusations here and there. There were people who were treating me like I didn't matter. And I just didn't understand what it meant. But it was just God making the space uncomfortable for me. So eventually, I just told my manager that, you know what? Let's see if there's still an opportunity at TV3. So we started having that conversation. They said, well, there is an opportunity still. We left that slot open for you. However, you need to assure us you're coming because we're not going to put together all the materials, getting ready to announce, and you won't come again. And I said, oh, I'm very sure I'm going. Because at that time I had it. I just couldn't take it anymore. I didn't see myself growing at that point. I was more depressed so I'd come to my show. If my show started at 3 o'clock, I'd get to work at 2:45. That's how badly I didn't want to be in that space. So 2:45, I'm there, and my boss is looking at me like, why are you coming this late? I'm like, oh, sorry, boss, I was doing something. But really, I'd wake up in the morning, and there was really no drive for me to want to be in that space. So I come at 2:45, my show ends, it's an hour, so it ends at 5, and I'm out. And that was consistent for a while. So I knew it was time. Luckily for me, there was an opportunity, and I had to move. Now, before that, I needed to ask myself, what really is your goal? Because it's not enough to say, I'm not comfortable here, so I just want to move. Sometimes you don't have a plan. Sometimes God has a plan for you.